Hey guys, how are you? I have a lot of really fun things for you today. And to start, here it is, my ugly Christmas sweater. It finally came in the mail and it says Perfectly Merry with these set of cameras here, and I'm so excited. It is actually really comfortable, and I have somebody who has also ordered a Christmas sweater. So Monique Renee, she is a YouTuber and photographer, and she works with pets. She has a really cool YouTube channel. You can check it out. I'm gonna put the link in the description. Monique, that is so cool. I am so excited that you ordered it and that you like it, and I hope that you get to enjoy it for years to come. All right, let's get started. Today I have an exciting new type of video for you. I was speaking to one of the friends that I've met through YouTube, a viewer. His name is George, and he had this fantastic idea, and that was, would I edit some of his raw photos? And I thought, yeah, you know what, this would be a fun and exciting project. I've seen a couple of other YouTubers do this, and why not, right? It gives us an opportunity to think outside the box, maybe see what somebody else might do, and it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me because the photos are not photos that I've taken. So I don't have that preset idea of what it should look like or that experience behind it that usually guides my editing. So it's going to be a purely editing exercise. However, I have asked George to give us a little bit of information about himself and these photos, and I have to tell you, even in their raw state, they are absolutely incredible. Here's George.
Hi Rachel, my name is George Mamar, and I am a hobbyist landscape photographer here in the amazing northwest state of Washington in the US. Thank you very much for offering to edit few of my images. This is a great idea. It's going to give me an excellent perspective from a professional photographer like you on images that I took. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing what you will be doing with them. So to give our friends on the channel an idea where these images were taken, so I took those recently in the North Cascade Mountains region of Washington State. If you guys have not been to the North Cascades, you are missing out on a huge lifetime opportunity, not only for photography, but for the amazing nature. It's second to nothing. Cameras, words cannot describe it. You'll have to go there to see what I'm talking about. Gotta visit the North Cascades. So those images I took at Diablo Lake, which is an alpine lake that sits at about 1,200 feet of elevation and is surrounded by peaks, the most prominent of which is the Colonial Peak, that rises up to about 7,770 feet above sea level. The amazing and unique turquoise color of the lake itself comes from the surrounding glaciers that grind rocks into fine powder, also called the glacial flour. And that flour makes its way to the lake through creeks and streams. It stays suspended in the lake, giving the water its amazing and unique color throughout all seasons. Even when it's overcast, you could still see that turquoise hue of the water. Just amazing. The moment or the day I took those photos was overcast after a fresh snow. There was clouds, fog surrounding those peaks over the lake, creating an amazing and dramatic scene. I could only let the camera away after taking these photos to, you know, sit down and enjoy the view and watching the clouds and fog as they were creeping around the mountains over the lake itself. It was just unreal. So I hope you guys enjoy those photos, and special thanks to Rachel for taking the time and effort to edit them and giving them the treatment that they deserve. And I hope you guys enjoy them. Thank you.
Okay, so I have imported George's 5 raw images here, and they are absolutely stunning. So I do not know which one to start with. When I pull them up, I can see information about the image in the top left. If I push the I key on my keyboard, if I push it again, it gives me some information about how the image was taken. And this particular image was 1/50th of a second, f10, ISO 160, and 24 millimeters for the lens. And if I move through the images, I have this vertical one, 1/80th of a second, f10, ISO 160, 40 millimeters, and so on. I love this with the water and the clouds. Just incredible mood with these images. Now, because they're all taken in one location, I think what I might do is work on one of them and then apply those same edits to all of the others, at least the Lightroom edits, and then see what I can do here. I'm not even sure if I'm going to move into Photoshop with these because they're just stunning. I think I might be able to just work with Lightroom and have them be beautifully finished. So I'm going to click the I key again, and then that information in the top left is going to disappear. I think I'm going to work with this image here, George, the first one, because it is absolutely just, it's got a little bit of everything. It's stunning. It's got the clouds at the top over the mountains. It's got the beautiful cloud drifting through the mountains, and then it's got some snow and some trees and so on there. So I'm in the library module or mode right now. I'm going to click over to develop, and then I'm going to get started. The first thing I always do when I'm editing, and I quite often reverse it, but the first thing I do just to get an idea of what the program thinks I should do is I click the auto button. So I'm going to click auto, and it's kind of done what I expected, which is lighten up the entire image. And it's kind of gotten rid of some of the moodiness, and I'm going to not do that. So I can either click reset, or I can Command Z or Control Z if you're on a Mac or a Windows computer. And I'm going to do that. Okay, so now I am back to the original image. Like I said, I wasn't there, so it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me to figure out what exactly I want to do here, but I'm thinking that it might be nice to accentuate the clouds in the sky, bring up the whiteness of the kind of inverted clouds going through the mountains, and then just going to play with the foreground colors and brightness. So I'm going to start by playing with some of the sliders. Maybe a little bit of exposure, not much contrast. I don't want the blacks to disappear, so I'm going to leave those. Highlights, I kind of want the highlights to come down in the sky but stay up in other areas, and that's because when you bring the highlights down on a cloudy sky, you get more detail in the cloud. So I'm going to leave that for the moment. Shadows, I'm going to bring those up slightly just to get some more of those trees back on the mountainside. They're absolutely gorgeous. And the whites, well, I'm looking at my histogram at the top there, and I can go up a bit without losing detail. You can see that at the top right. So I'm going to do that. The blacks up, down, maybe down just a little bit. Since I had increased the shadows, I'm going to bring the blacks down just a little to bring that contrast back in. Okay, texture, well, I don't really feel like it needs to change, and the clarity I'm going to leave. Now the dehaze is something that I will often apply to just a certain area, and I'm going to leave the color alone for now. So what I'm going to do is now I like just those overall edits, and I'm going to do some selective edits, okay? And before I do that, I am going to apply these basic changes to all 5 of the images. So I'm going to highlight all of the images at the bottom on this film strip here, and then I am going to hit the sync button over on the right, and it's going to ask me which of these things that I would like to sync. And I've only done some basic things, so it's okay to leave them all checked off. I'm going to hit synchronize, and now all of the images are going to have those same edits. And I can take a look, and I can change any of them individually if I want to. So I'm back to this first image, and the first thing I'm going to do is I would like to work on those clouds right in the middle. So I'm going to click this button here, which is the selective edits, and I am going to put the sliders back to 0, and I'm going to brush over these clouds here that I want to bring out. I'm going to brush over the white there, and then I'm going to decide on how to do that. I could bring the highlights up. I could bring the exposure up, but unfortunately what that's going to do is it's going to bring up the exposure of everything in that area, including the darker shadows behind. So if I bring the highlights up instead, or even the whites, it's going to select just the clouds because those are the bright parts, right? So I'm going to bring those up because they are just so stunning. And just going to decide on a good, well, I'm going to leave it there for now. Okay, I like that. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a gradient. So I'm going to do a gradient selective edit. So I've clicked on this gradient, and I'm going to pull it down to where I would like it to affect the image. So I want it to affect the top area of this image and not the bottom. Now I have dragged it over the top of the mountain, so I may need to adjust that slightly as I go. But first let's see how it looks. So I can play around with this. Like I said, I can bring down the highlights, but I think I might not do that this time. This time I might just try adding some dehaze. See how that plays with the clouds there? Like, just gorgeous. And it just brings out that drama, right? That beautiful contrast. And I can play around now with the highlights, maybe even bring them up a bit. Shadows down for a little bit more. And all I do really as I go is just play around with it. Now, something that often happens when I play with dehaze is that the saturation, especially of the blues, gets really almost distorted. It's a little bit too much. So I can back off the saturation a little bit there, and I'm happier with that. It doesn't look as unnatural. I could play around too with the contrast if I want to, and well, it's looking good. Now, if you notice just on the peaks of some of these mountains, there is now a little bit of extra darkness because of this gradient tool that I have applied this selective gradient edit. So I'm actually going to click on brush, and what it's going to allow me to do is down here on the right I have A, B, and erase. So I'm going to use the brush now to erase some of this gradient edit on the mountains. And so I can do that now. I can just kind of brush over the tops of these mountains, being careful not to make a bright edge up at the top, which is very easy to do. And as I brush over it, all it does there is it takes away those edits on the tops of the mountains and it brings it back to normal. So I have the edits on the clouds, not the mountains, and good to go. Next part. This is just fabulous. I love this image. All right, so I'm going to get out of that gradient now, and this is what I have. And I'm going to work next maybe on the colors of the trees and the water. I am going to scroll down on the right here, and I've got these sliders, the HSL color sliders. I am going to go to the luminance tab, and I'm just going to see what colors I'm working with. Sometimes you think that something is green, like you see a tree and you think it's green because that's what you know in your head, trees are green. But in Lightroom, in Photoshop, the color is actually not green. It might be cyan, it might be yellow, it might be blue. So, you know, you can play around with the sliders and see what is actually being affected. Or you can click on this little adjustment, adjust luminance by dragging in the photo. And I will do that. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to drag on the water here, and as I do, it's going to show me. So I've got green and aqua in the water. You can see how those sliders are moving back and forth, and you can see they're very subtly moving in the image. I'm going to bring them up a little bit, so that is affecting all of the green and aqua in the image. And I'm going to go to saturation because I know they're green and aqua. I'm going to add some saturation there. So the aqua is the one that's doing more of what I want. The whites in this image were perfectly exposed by George, and so I don't need to play around with the snow there. It's absolutely beautiful. I could try and play with maybe the exposure on the mountainside here, just to see more of the trees. Okay, that's a little too much. Maybe the highlights up a bit, shadows just a little bit, and the highlights down. Sometimes it's just playing, right? Like playing with it and seeing, okay, what makes you like this image at the most, you know? Like there's not a right or wrong answer. It's just the way that it is. Now, if I wanted to add that down to the water, I could. And I love my undo button because undo is something that I use a lot. Okay, so adding some exposure, I wonder, to the rock a little bit here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fine tune some of the overall tone, I guess. So I'm back to the whole picture with no selective adjustments being made, and I can just play around with it a little bit here. I'm looking at this water again here, and I'm wondering if I want to bring it up. So exposure up, contrast up, because the don't want it to look unnatural, but I like the idea of just really showing that off. So I've got that there. My masking was a little bit not so great, but that's better. And I can bring my brush down just a little bit so that I can get along there. So now I've made these changes to the water, and I want to know if I like them or not, or if it was better before. So I can hit this little turn off brush adjustment, and it turns off all of the brush adjustments. So you can see all of these brush adjustments that I have made, and I kind of like it. So George, this is my edit of your image. It is a stunning image. I don't think I improved on it. I think it was absolutely beautiful. Now, shall we see the before and after? Okay. So if I just hit reset, that was the raw file, and this was my edit. Okay, so that's that. Now, if I apply these edits to all of the images, I'm gonna have some problems because of all the selective edits that I had. The selective edits are something that you can only apply to other images if your other images have the same subjects in the same areas, and these ones are not quite the same. If I were to go to the next one, for example, and to apply the edits of the previous photo, I just hit this previous button. If I do that, you're gonna see it's gonna look very strange because it's a different orientation. So it's applying those masked edits on the wrong orientation. But I could go in and try to change them up. So George, these images are just beautiful. So I'm going to show you before and after for this one. Okay, before, after, and I have to tell you, for this image in particular, I probably would do it as a black and white. So if I change it to black and white, you can see there. I mean, it is stunning. Just gorgeous. I love the detail at the tops of the mountains there, and it's just honestly amazing. Thank you for letting me edit your photos. They're just stunning. You guys, you should check out George's channel. He has a YouTube channel called Arrowman, and his ability to video these places is really phenomenal. It feels like you're there, you're hiking right through the mountains, and it's worth checking out. Also, if you'd like to see more of George's images, he has an Instagram channel as well, and I will put all of these things in the description. I really encourage you to check them out, and I want to thank you for just for sharing your work with me. Is absolutely an honor. It's an honor to do this, and congratulations on phenomenal work. So guys, I hope that you are having a merry preparing for Christmas, and I am. I've almost finished all my Christmas shopping, and I have a few things coming up for you. I'm still going to get out there and take some film images with my new Minolta Maxim 7000 camera, and I have color and black and white film, and I have been seeing some of the film images that you have been sharing with me, and I can't wait to share them back to all of you. You have blown me away like completely with your talent and your passion, and don't lose that. That is essential. That is everything that we need as creative individuals, that we need to cope with all of the other things in life that maybe are just work. But when you have that creative outlet, when you have that creative look on life, when you have that passion, you can get through anything. So don't lose that. Keep posting your pictures. I can't wait to share them with you. And I'm gonna get out with my film camera, and I am absolutely nervous about it. I'm not sure I remember how to use this camera, so it might be a funny vlog, but that's okay. It's coming up. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming along. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. I'd love it if you would check out George's channel. I would love it if you'd check out Monique's channel, and just keep going, keep having fun. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.